Now awaiting a decision in the Fani Willis misconduct case after a wild two-day hearing last week. We all watched it together. A judge could remove the Fulton County DA from Georgia's Trump election meddling case, along with her lover, Nathan Wade. Last week, the judge heard dramatic testimony about their affair, their lavish trips together, and the lies they supposedly told.
Did you observe them do things that are common among people having a romantic relationship?
Yes.
Such as, can you give us an example?
Hugging, kissing.
Mr. Wade is used to women that, as he told me one time, the only thing a woman can do for him is make him a sandwich.
Let's just get down to it. Did you or did you not, by May the 30th, in 2023, have had sexual relations with Miss Willis, yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes.
So let's be clear, because you lied in this. Let me tell you which one you lied in. Right here. I think you lied right here. No. This is the truth, Judge. And it is a lie. It is a lie.
Oh, Jonathan Serrie is in Atlanta. Jonathan, that was just some of what we heard over those 2 days. It got wild in that courtroom at times.
Yeah, very dramatic testimony. This week, the judge in the case is expected to privately hear confidential testimony from a key witness to determine whether any of this testimony is admissible in court or whether it's protected by attorney-client privilege. That witness is Terrence Bradley, a former law partner of Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade. He initially testified that a disagreement related to Wade's divorce led the two attorneys to end their professional partnership. But under questioning, he later admitted it was something more.
There was an allegation that you sexually assaulted a member of the firm, correct?
Yes, there was an allegation, yes.
And as a result of that allegation, you left?
I did.
You were no longer business partners with Mr. Wade?
That is correct.
DA Fani Willis claims she did not become romantically involved with attorney Wade until several months after she hired him as a special prosecutor. The defense is trying to prove their relationship began earlier than that and that Wade rewarded Willis with lavish vacation travel. Former President Trump brought this up on the campaign trail over the weekend.
I think she said 9 trips. Every time I took a trip with my lover, I paid him in cash. Where the hell did you get the cash?
Republican challenger Nikki Haley says all this litigation is distracting Mr. Trump from important campaign issues and that his mounting legal bills threaten to drain Republican chances going into November. Sandra?
All right, a lot to take in there. Jonathan Serrie on that for us. Jonathan, thank you. Tom Dupree joining us now, former Deputy Assistant Attorney General. Tom, great to see you. So what is the fate of DA Willis?
Well, that will be decided in the next week or two, Sandra. And look, my sense is that there's a very good chance, in my judgment, that this judge is going to disqualify her from any further involvement in this litigation based on her conduct in deciding to hire Mr. Wade, her relationship with Mr. Wade, and that sort of thing. However, I think there's also a decent chance that people close to the DA at some point, you'd think, might step in, take her aside and say, hey, look, you need to step aside here. We understand you want to maintain your innocence. We understand you want to fight. But the greater good and the public interest demands that you step aside and allow a new team of prosecutors to come into this case.
So, Tom, what happens if Fani Willis is disqualified in this Trump election case? What if that is her fate? Phil Holloway, a former assistant district attorney in Georgia, says it's difficult to imagine any other district attorney that would be willing to take up this case. The reason for that is the case is so tainted at this point by virtue of a Fani Willis conflict of interest, then the whole thing might need to start over, and that's a big ask. Weigh in on that, Tom. I mean, has this just gone too far?
Well, look, I think that's a fair point in that it's hard to imagine any DAs in the state of Georgia who would be eager to take over what really has become a bit of a morass here. And look, the other thing, Sandra, is that if some new team comes in to take over, that there is a good chance that they either might decide to modify the charges, drop certain charges against certain defendants, or who knows, maybe even get rid of the whole case. You can't assume that if a new DA comes in, that he or she will take the same approach and make the same decisions that Fani Willis Willis has taken up to this point.
All right, we'll see what the next steps are. We'll keep watching that. Meanwhile, Tom, massive backlash over New York's civil fraud verdict against former President Donald Trump. He promises to appeal after the judge fined him more than $350 million and barred him from doing business in the state for 3 years. Many are saying the enormous financial punishment does not fit the crime. Senator Ted Cruz says it boils down to one thing.
The judge's decision in New York is an outrage. This was a partisan Democrat judge adjudicating on a case brought by a partisan Democrat attorney general. Letitia James campaigned on saying, I'm going to get Donald Trump. This is about power and trying to destroy Donald Trump. Why? Because ultimately, this is about attacking democracy. They want to stop the voters from voting for Donald Trump. It is dangerous.
Some headlines blasting the ruling include Trump's $355 million civil fraud verdict. The judge found he inflated his assets, but this penalty is unreal. Another warns Dem elites shouldn't be laughing at Trump's civil trial outcome. They just made him a political martyr. And Jonathan Turley argues the obscene award against Trump is testing the New York legal system's integrity. Quote, the one hope for New York businesses may be the U.S. Supreme Court. Despite the deference afforded to the states and the courts, the court has occasionally intervened to block excessive damage awards. The court may find almost $500 million in damages without a single lost dollar from a victim to be a tad excessive. What say you on that, Tom?
Well, I think a lot of Americans are looking at what happened here and have very legitimate questions. For one thing, as you note, the district attorney or the attorney general of New York began her campaign by saying she was going to get Donald Trump. She then brought a case which was very unusual. Not that prosecutions or claims under the statute are unusual, but they are unusual when you don't really have a victim. You don't have a bank coming forward and saying, hey, we were defrauded here. So there's the absence of that. Then the judgment itself of what will ultimately be with interest more than $400 million. Yeah. I think causes a lot of people to look and say, hey, look, this is a quote unquote victimless crime. No one is saying they were hurt by this. And yet you tag former President Trump with a sanction that could be close to $500 million by the time the dust settles. I think that the courts of appeals, they're now going to get this case. And I think they will take a very close look at the trial record, the evidence, in determining whether a sanction of this magnitude
really
is warranted.
Interesting analysis on that. Former President Trump, I want to get this in, meanwhile, says New York businesses are going to bolt Tom after his fraud trial ruling. Governor Kathy Hochul responded with this.
The law-abiding and rule-following New Yorkers who are business people have nothing to worry about because they're very different than Donald Trump and his behavior.
Or maybe they do have something to worry about, Tom.
Well, I think the worry is that if you're a business in New York, you could get in the crosshairs of an attorney general who, again, campaigns for office on the theory that she's going to get certain people and get defendants. And look, if you're not one of them, then maybe you're okay. But if you have the misfortune to be in her crosshairs when she's making these campaign political promises to get you, that's a lot of uncertainty and not something that a lot of businesses in New York would like to have.
So many ways to look at it. Tom Dupree, as always, thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.